Albion Solstice is Spitfire Audio's latest installment for the Albion collection. If you want to mix your traditional folk-based instruments with a more modern texture, then this new library could be for you. Hey everyone, my name is Robert Rodriguez and I'm a media composer. If you are new here, I want to invite you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. My goal is to help brand new composers feel confident in their own music writing process. So like I said, Albion Solstice is the latest installment for Spitfire Audio's Albion collection. Its focus is based on tradition and lore. A lot of their promotion over the past few weeks have really focused on this idea of non-notated instruments and performances. It kind of has that storytelling fireside vibe. What makes this library different from other Albion libraries, and I'm thinking more specifically like their Albion 1 library, is that this isn't recorded like your traditional orchestral studio session. Spitfire brought in these specific instrumentalists and players to record these folk-like sounds. Now, this isn't meant to be your typical folk sample library either. Spitfire really tried to combine your folk, Celtic, and Gaelic sounds with more modern textures as well. Now, I do want to point out that today is launch day, so they have an introductory offer of 20% off. So normally it's $449, but right now, take off 20% of that. And if you already own an Albion library, doesn't matter which one, they will automatically take off 35% of the base price. But keep in mind, this is only up until July 15th, so head on over to their website to make sure you get the full details. And of course, in order to get started, you're gonna need a compatible DAW or digital audio workstation. Throughout the video, you'll see that I'll be using Logic Pro. It also works with the full contact player and the free player. And throughout the video, I'll be using the free version. And if you are brand new to composing or you just need some solid starting point, then I wanna give you access to my free composer reference guide. It's a downloadable PDF that can help you start composing music in almost any genre for film, television, or games. And it's gonna break down the foundations of music into 4 categories: melody, harmony, rhythm, and orchestration. Just from this guide, you'll get a really good idea of how specific characteristics can really shape different genres of music. So definitely check that out in the description link down below. Now, I want this video to really capture my first impressions. I've actually yet to open up the library. I don't know what it sounds like, and then go in depth with each section in upcoming videos. But at a glance, you get your Solstice Orchestra, your Cassette Orchestra, and the drone grid. So I opened up a brand new session in Logic Pro, and you'll see that I have the contact player all set up. Just from my library off to the side, you'll see Albion Solstice is installed and ready to go. Just by opening up the instruments, we have the 3 different sections that I mentioned: the Solstice Orchestra, the drone grid, and the Cassette Orchestra. So we'll start off with the Solstice Orchestra. This is the heart of the library. This is what everything else is going to be based around. And it's divided by the different sections of an orchestra. So elders, strings; the callers, brass and winds; mystics, pipes; the blackguards, band; the hosts, choir; the generator trio is going to be electric guitars; the gut circle is going to be acoustic guitars; the nursery is bells and mallets; the Marauders, percussion; and then you have your individual articulations per section. So from Spitfire's website, they say that this is going to include 10 ensembles and 1 solo instrument. You're going to get 235 articulations and 4 mix signals. So the elders is going to be broken up into 3 subsections: the classic octet, traditional sextet, and a solo double bass. And going into the classic octet, we have main techniques, effects, evolutions, and motors. I want to point out that this ensemble is going to be 2 first violins, 2 second violins, 2 violas, and 2 cellos. So let's try the main techniques patch. And if you're not familiar with the Spitfire interface, you'll have your articulations here. You can adjust quickly how your mics are set up, close or far. Your dynamics are routed to your mod wheel. Yes, I understand. Close this bubble. You could affect your reverb, the release, the speed, and your expression. So let's just try legato. So like I mentioned before, you'll get 4 different mic mixes. The first one is the Jake Jackson mix, and that is the default that it starts out on. All right, so let's try the close mic. Let it load up a little bit. What's interesting about this close position is that usually close mics sound very bright and harsh just because that's the nature of you getting closer to the instrument, but this sounds very almost mellow in a way, basically just warmer than I was expecting for a close mic. The OU are the outriggers, so I'll close that for now. So that's kind of just off to the side. And then the room mics. Just to point out, I'm doing these individually, but you can, of course, mix and match the different positions that work for you. So this is a bit fuller of a sound, especially compared to the outriggers. I really love that sound. It's actually really nice. So that was legato. Then this is long, so now we can actually do some chords. Very warm sound. That I left it on the room mic, but let's see just everything. Maybe outriggers, room a little bit lower, close. Actually, I want to lower that one, raise that, and let's try. Nice low end. Circular. So that kind of reminds me of the evolutions, and we'll talk about those later, but that kind of reminds me of I understand the circular pattern where things are just kind of changing as you hold down a chord. So pont. Definitely a harsher, brighter sound. Soltasto, a duller sound. Very nice. Sinister. That's a lot of high end. That's really bright. And it almost sounds like a drone. It's pretty cool. Trill. Major second trill. Minor second trill. And your spiccatos. Ooh. You get a very sharp sound. It sounds close, but the reverb gives it a little bit more space. That could also be the room. Very cool. Marcato. All right, and pizzicato. So those are all very traditional style orchestral techniques. It's just that the ensemble is significantly smaller. You got your octet, but I'm really loving the sound of these different mic positions. And I do feel inspired to write a little bit more, or just at least play around with them. So now let's move on to the effects. All right, so we'll say goodbye to the pop-up. The articulations are just 4 articulations: gliss down, gliss up, bends major third, and cluster. Those are some cool effects. Up. Bends major third. Very nice. And cluster. So that just keeps going up. Yeah, so that is awesome. It definitely is just to add a little bit more texture to your music. So that is really nice. We'll X out of that, and then we'll move on to Evos. So this isn't the grid itself. This is still just within the Solstice Orchestra, but I am interested to see. It says disturbed, trembling, quiver, unsteady, flickering, and hesitant. So just from those names, you know that this is meant to be kind of that, like they say, unsteady and hesitant kind of sound. So great for tension building. Let's start on 1. So that just kept going and growing. Trembling. Much softer. And it seems like they all get louder and louder. Flickering. Oh. Wow, okay, very nice. And hesitant. I'm really a fan of the Evos. That's awesome. Next up, motors. And we'll close you. Don't show it, I know. Motor 90, motor 110, motor 16ths 90, 16ths 110, triplet 90, triplet 110. So the 90 and 110 refer to the tempo. What I like about this is that it's not meant to be necessarily in sync. It's definitely meant to be off-tempo and suspenseful. Very cool. Motor 16ths, 110. And motor triplet 110. Awesome. So those are your classic octet elder strings. Let us try traditional sextet. So this is separated by long techniques, short techniques, evos, and then effects and motors. So long. So with traditional, you're going to get more of that folk, Celtic, Gaelic sound. And this is a 6-piece ensemble. So 2 violin ones, 2 violin twos, 1 viola, and 1 cello. So a bit smaller than the classic. This is the tremolo scattered. Ooh. So definitely not meant for chords necessarily, but you can really start getting some crazy sounds just kind of embedded in other music, into your music. Oh, that is amazing. These are all long, different variations of long. Your tremolo, sul ponticello. Let's try flautando. This is warm flautando, whereas this is cold. Definitely icier, brighter. And again, let me move this because I'm sure we're using Jake Jackson's mix. Yep. So I'll just kind of keep it on that for now for a standard sound. And harmonics. Awesome. Ooh. That's great. I love that. So those are your long techniques. We'll move that and go on to short techniques. So we have crescendo. It looks like these are different variations of spiccato. These are different variations of pizzicato and collegno. Ooh, I love that sound. Lovely. This has a lot of room to it. Just listen to how long it lasts. So that's a sharper, I guess, pluck. This is very loose, which it says in the name. Torn. That's definitely an effect. Oh, and that has like a deep resonance to it. Very nice. We'll move on to more evos. I believe these are based on D. Dorian. I could be mistaken though, but I do remember Christian Henson bringing that up. Yep, so that's not going to work, obviously. It's meant to be D Dorian. So, but I think you can transpose that down the line to whatever key you want. Unstable. Shaken. And fractured. That's very, very nice. All right, and last we have effects and motors. So, Sforzando. Gliss up. Love those clusters. Rosin, ooh. And then these are the motors like before. And motor T. Oh, motor triplets, duh. Cool, all right. That's the traditional sextet, which I'm a big fan of. And then we have the bass, which is just your main techniques. And this is the only solo instrument in this entire library. So let's see what this sounds like. Okay. I know it's a double bass, so like obviously, but it sounds super deep and gritty. It has a very low oomph to it. Like, I don't know if it's sounding, if you can hear it in the video, but in my headphones, it really is powerful. That's legato, then long, harmonic, rosin, much quieter, solpant, similar to rosin, soltasto, this is that warmer sound. It almost sounds like a tone. Staccato. That is a clear, crisp sound. Wow. Pits. Nice. And Colegno. And Bartok. Very nice. Fairly standard-ish for bass techniques, but it definitely provides a nice low end for the other two sections, which were like violins, viola, cello. Cello. I combined the two. Okay, those are our strings. That is the string section. That's awesome. Love that. All right, so next up, we're gonna take a look at the callers, which is our brass and winds. And from now on, I'm gonna definitely try speeding it up so that this video isn't too long. Let's see, main techniques, and we'll just kind of try a few. This is gonna be your soprano sax, your clarinet, your tenor trombone, instruments like that from both winds and brass. Very, very nice. because happy birthday. Cool. Flutter tongue. We'll try overblown. Oh, that is very, very nice. Tremolo scattered. Okay, so we've seen that with the string section. I'll skip over, what's this? Staccatissimo. Cool. All right, these are our effects. We have rips. And it sounds cleaner as you go up. Yeah, as you go up, it gets more defined. All right, so let's try FX Whispers. Oh, these are just these 4 notes down here. Chatter, limited range again. Awesome, and key noise. So they recorded the sounds of the keys. Very interesting. All right, so we'll kind of move on from the callers, and just to kind of speed things up a little bit. Choir, we have main techniques, and once again, motors and effects. So this is a female choir. I believe it's 6 high voices and 1 low voice. How low can we go? That doesn't seem natural, but it works. And how high? An F. Okay. Very spooky. So these are your ahs, your o, ah, and o. Okay, so it's natural versus infinite. So I love that sound. Versus natural, maybe there's going to be some breathing involved. It dies off. Okay, so that's kind of nice. It, for lack of a better word, is more natural. So those are your main techniques. Motor effects, 90, 110, drone. And song bath. These are really intricate sounds. Oh my gosh. I think they did a great job at capturing just, I mean, this is only 7 voices too. And it really has that folk-based kind of style too, which I am a huge fan of. So that was the host. Let's try out the electric guitars, the generator trio. So just... I do know that this the generator trio, is 2 electric guitars and 1 electric bass. And I believe Spitfire has said that, like, even though the electric guitar itself doesn't necessarily fit into the mold of instruments that this is trying to create, the way that these were recorded is similar to all of the other folk instruments. Let's see what... That's slow tremolo. Staccato. Nice. Awesome. So these aren't like really in your face or anything. These are very much background guitars, which I really like. Let's try the percussion. So these are the Marauders. Grooves. Okay, so the percussion is divided into grooves, kits, and snake kit. And then it looks like there's another folder of visitors. And I do want to point out that Spitfire has also said that this isn't gonna be your traditional loops. I think a lot of people have kind of compared this to Evolve and their loops samples, but the grooves are supposed to be almost like live human performances. So maybe that makes up for maybe the loop factor if you don't want to get stuck in one rhythm or one pattern. I don't know what mix B, let's see. Maybe you explain it. No? I don't know what these are, but... Okay, very cool. You can kind of play around with that. I don't know what you are. Just want to see. Oh, are these supposed to be the instruments? Okay, so what you can do is these different mixes are the, I guess, the different instruments that you can play around with. So you can adjust, remove, add in any of the 3, and you can adjust the volumes as well. Kits, so this is just one main kit altogether. I just don't know what the BOAUDR is. But if I were to do this, without these 2, it sounds far away. It sounds off in the distance, not as full. Add that, feels fuller. This gives it more room and it kind of puts it front and center. Let's try the visitor. And what are those grooves? So we have a few different ones, I guess at different tempos. Okay, and kits. Cinematic snakes. Hyper snakes, overstayer, the 6. that's rumbling. Great. So this is your typical kind of percussive library. It definitely has its influences from folk percussion, so that's very nice. And I just want to point out that the ones that we kind of skipped over, like the Mystics, those are your pipes, those are your basically your whistles or any kind of flute groups. The Blackguards are your band. That's going to be like your accordion, bass harmonica, maybe the hurdy-gurdy. That is actually something I did want to touch on because I have always wanted a hurdy-gurdy. In case you don't know, hurdy-gurdies are kind of like this string instrument, but it's cranked. Very, very cool instrument. Oh, so it's droning on one pitch. Love that. Awesome. I love that. So that's just one of the instruments in the band kind of section. Let's see. We went over choir. The gut circle is the acoustic guitars. So the acoustic guitars are going to be like your mandolin, your ukulele, maybe like a steel or nylon string guitar. Then the nursery are your bells and mallets. So maybe your pitched percussion, celeste, vibraphone, glockenspiel, things like that. So that is very cool. That's what's going to make up the Solstice Orchestra. You're going to have plenty of instruments to work with. Now let's move on to Cassette Orchestra. So this is broken down into classic, traditional, and band. Then we have the Visitor, as well as all of these presets. In the Cassette Orchestra, you're going to get 150 different presets, which is what we saw before. And those are all created from samples in the Solstice Orchestra. So this entire cassette category is based on the instruments, the folk instruments that were recorded in the Solstice Orchestra. And these are meant to sound imperfect. They're created from vintage cassette machines, tape delays, and other modular synths, as well as some guitar FX pedals. And the thing is, this is right up Christian Henson's alley. He loves to combine like live performances and instruments with modular synthetic sounds. And that's something that we've seen with one of their most recent releases, the cinematic pads. So if we were to load up the classic, this is their eDNA, Edna DNA, eDNA. If I were to now mess around, add a gate on there. And the thing with the eDNA is this is a synth engine that they have used in other Albion libraries. So like I said, I am a Albion 1 user, so I definitely recognize this setup. But what makes this one unique is that this is all based on the Solstice Orchestra. So it's not like the engine itself is what's gonna give you the sounds, it's what the library is gonna give you. So that's how that kind of differs from other Albion libraries. But I love, like, one of my favorite things and kind of go-tos is the gate sequencer. You can smooth in and out, stop on release. You can adjust the ADSR on both ends, A and B. You can change the different samples that you want. So Sinister, Evo 1. Any of the Evos, you could really get some interesting sounds because the Evos are kind of changing and always moving around. But yeah, this is where you want to almost make your own synths in a way. You can always go to the presets, and those are pre-created, designed, ready to go, and there's 150 of those. But if you want to stand out and not get limited to the, I mean, there's 150, so you know, it's gonna be harder for you to sound like somebody, but everyone is given those presets. So with that said, you can create one right off the bat or go into a preset and adjust and change to make something your own. This is the band, like the accordion, hurdy-gurdy, stuff like that. I just want to double check that I'm correct on that. I'm not lying. Yep, so your longs, decay, gliss. Oh, okay, so it includes the generator and the host. So that's like your electric guitars and your choirs. Okay, I'm glad I looked into that. That's very cool. Okay. And let's just... So it's... Oh, that is super cool. Maybe. Wow. All right, gate sequencer. Let's bring it. I want this to be... All right, so you can definitely mess around with that. We won't lose track of ourselves. So let's presets, and let's just see what like Atlantis is. I don't know. All right. So it's using 2 elders, which is cool. You can adjust the chorus. Oh, how wet it is, the delay, the spread. And then you can adjust the FX and motor in here. So that's long decay, long type 1. I like it. I like a faster. And let's bring that all the way out. Sounds very funky, and it keeps going, but you can stop on release, which is useful. Yeah, there's 150 of these, so if you can just pick one and then adjust it a couple of times, you already have your own preset. You're not gonna sound like anybody else, but you just gotta adjust it. String theory, I'm assuming, yep, elder. Interesting. So you have so many different options when it comes to your cassette orchestra. Let's see. You are war hits. Oh, so this is going to be the bass. Interesting. Okay, awesome. So we'll move on. Basically, the cassette orchestra is just your synths. You have, I don't want to say an infinite amount of possibilities, but you have quite a lot that you can do. I just want to see what this was. Very cool. Okay, so that was the cassette orchestra. And then next up, we'll move on to the drone grid. So the drone grid is a return of Spitfire Audio's evolutions. We've seen a few different libraries that have this type of setup. I personally own the Olafur Arnold's Chamber Evolutions. The grid is basically set up by different keys. And then as you scroll through, you'll see different colors, and those indicate a type of texture that you can get. So if something is in this row and then another is in this row, those two sounds are going to be kind of layering on top of one another and creating a whole new sound. So it's going to be very rare for you to come up with an exact same sound as somebody else, which is why I love this so much. You can really get creative. And if you want to, this little dice right here next to Evo, that is your randomizer. So you can randomize the sounds. Maybe you want this peg to be over here and this peg to be all the way in red, and you can adjust the volume, effects, and panning of it. So there's so much you can do in just one patch of evolutions. And what's great is that this idea of evolutions kind of takes the work off of your shoulders. It kind of creates a texture for you. And then, of course, you can go in and adjust anything to your liking. If you don't like a specific sound that's happening, you can go in and adjust it. Let's just take a listen. So you have a lot of extra noise, if that's what you want to call it, in the background. But again, this is all falling under one category, this yellow category. If I were to randomize... Oh, okay. So the names are the Elders, Callers, and Mystics, I'm assuming is blue. So let's just say randomize with Elders. This makes a lot more sense. So you have your strings all randomized. Awesome. Let's randomize with Callers and Mystics. So this is everything blue. Let's randomize with the band. So it seems like this is pretty heavy with the host. Next up is Blackguards. I am not pronouncing that right. Very nice. So you can see that there is a range of keys, so maybe C1 to F1, where if you play anything in that range, it'll play a specific evolution. And then once you reach the next range, it'll play a whole other set of evolutions. And it kind of goes up through the keyboard. So we have hurdy-gurdy. So this is specifically hurdy-gurdy. And you could randomize only visible, randomize in column. Let's just go crazy and randomize with all. So let's just... Oh, so that's nice. Okay, so just from these two, it's gonna change now. Wow. So I love it. I am definitely more inclined to mess around with this drone grid than maybe, I don't know, because I think that each section, like the Solstice, the cassette, and the drone, all have their different purposes and their different sounds. But something like this, where it's almost like a kit of selected sounds, if that makes sense, like this just really is inspiring, and you know that no one else is really gonna have anything like it because this was randomized. So that's not really anything new in terms of evolutions, but this is just something that I'm really happy they added to this new library. And that's actually the only preset or only patch that they have in the drone grid. So those are the 3 different sections. This was definitely a first impressions kind of video, and I was just kind of all over the place testing things out. But maybe in the future, in upcoming videos, I can kind of dive into the Solstice Orchestra, and then another could be really focusing on the cassette orchestra, maybe making my own preset. And then the drone grid, I could play around with that all day. So this really is such a great addition to the Albion collection. What I really like about this library is not just the variety of like folk instruments that you can get, but it's also the inclusion of the eDNA engine and the Evo grid. I think that's what makes this library a bit more elevated compared to maybe just a folk instrument sample library. And I do want to point out that some of these samples or some of the loops, I think in terms of the percussion, did remind me of the Evolve. And I think I've actually seen a few people comment something similar, where the Evolve library that I have, like these rhythmic suites, percussive kits, they all kind of sound, I don't want to say the same, but they have very similar qualities to them. But I think that's just the nature of loops in general. And I did notice that these loops in Albion Solstice, they were very similar to live human performances. So I liked that aspect of it. And I don't really think that you need to base an entire piece around necessarily the loops, but you can definitely combine that with your eDNA engine, which, as we saw, was something that we could customize to our heart's content. You get some serious editing capabilities within that one engine. And I actually said this in my cinematic pads video, but Spitfire just knows how to create insane synth samples off of live organic recordings. Spitfire also creates samples specific to media. That's what we kind of got with Jake Jackson's mix. It sounded very cinematic and wide, and once again, that's something we see with cinematic pads. They definitely want your music to fit in the context of something that's going on screen, whether it's film, television, or a game. This is one of Spitfire Audio's higher tier products. It comes in at $449, but from now until July 15th, you can get it at a 20% off discount. And like I said before, if you already own another Albion library, you can get that at 35% off. Just log into your account and then it'll know, okay, let's do 35%. And if you are watching this after the introductory time frame, it most likely is $449 base price. And I know that that can be a bit over budget for a lot of us. Not everyone can kind of afford just almost $500 for one sample library. But with that said, I don't want you to kind of get put off by that price. Instead, think about what you actually need from your own personal libraries. Are you missing a folk-based sample library? If you are, then maybe check out some of their originals, maybe their free products. See how you can almost take the place of this for the time being. And Spitfire does do a bunch of sales throughout the year. I know that they have their monthly highlights where typically one of their products that they choose goes on sale for 30% off. Typically Black Friday, a holiday sale, maybe like a summer sale. So there are definitely times where you can just pick this up at a much cheaper cost than the $449 base price. But I'm a firm believer that you don't need every single product, every new release that comes out. You can definitely create amazing music with the inexpensive options that are available to you. And it's kind of a joke in the community that Spitfire releases the biggest innovative product every other month. A lot of times they'll release something and have a bunch of different videos saying that this could change the way we write music. Now, I love Spitfire, so I don't mind those promotional videos, but the point is you can always find a great product at Spitfire that is within your price point and meets your compositional needs. So don't feel like you have to get every single library that they release. So I'm a huge fan of Albion Solstice. It meets my needs. I didn't have any folk-based samples whatsoever, and I just love that it kind of combines traditional with modern. Think about your own needs and your own price point, and if you are interested in other Spitfire products, tap or click the screen so that you can watch one of my other product reviews. And as always, happy composing.